Hey, Worthiness Warriors! Welcome to the Worthiness Mindset, a podcast where we dig deep into our worthiness and the part it plays in all areas of our life. I'm Jilly Johnston, a life coach, joy spreader, self-love ambassador, permission giver, and worthiness warrior. This podcast is to empower people to rediscover their voice, worth, and power. So tune in, open up, and let's fly. Ready, set, you're already worthy. Let's get started. Hey, Worthiness Warriors. I'm so excited for today's podcast guest, Matt Gagne. Matt Gagne was a professional wind tunnel flyer and skydiver for 8 years when a car accident while living in Dubai changed his life trajectory forever. He broke his neck in 10 different places and was internally decapitated. He was motivated to take back his life, and now he makes a living helping others find the motivation to do the same in theirs. He has a company called Flock Goods, and flock is a word that describes their community and how we move together. So without further ado, let's go talk to Matt. Hey, Worthiness Warriors! I am so excited for today's podcast and for one of the most kind of inspiring, motivating, and driven guests that I've had on in a while. And so I am so excited to be here with Matt Gagne. And so Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and to share your positivity, because you are so positive and upbeat. So thank you for taking this time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me. I think positivity breeds positivity. So likewise to yourself, Jilly, because as soon as I met you, I was like, yes, we're definitely in alignment, I think, in a lot of ways.
100%. And it feels so good. And so I want to use this time and just share, you have such an inspiring story, such a meaningful story, and such a meaningful quest of what you're out to do and achieve and create in this world. And so I want to touch on all of that. And so the first thing I want to do, though, is I want people to really get to know you. And so I want you to take a few minutes of just, how did you get to where you are? And tell me a little bit about your story so people can see themselves in you.
Man, it's a good question. How do we get to where we are? For me now, life has kind of unfolded almost organically through action, of course, but almost by accident, in the ups and downs. I never thought I'd be where I am today at certain times. But yeah, so I guess rewind way back to 2007. I started working at my first wind tunnel. I had no experience. I was a total, what they call a woofo, like a first-timer, non-skydiver. Got a job there after flying for a couple of minutes, long story. And that's where I fell in love with the sport of body flight, which is indoor skydiving. And that's where I met skydivers who at the time to me were borderline superheroes, because these guys were they're jumping out of airplanes. It was whoa, these guys are nuts. And they had passports full of stamps. They were living life on their terms, and they weren't fearless. They weren't they didn't have a death wish. They just did it because they were inclined and inspired to do so, and they had so much energy from living life that way. I was inspired, and that's what really changed a lot of my thought processes and kind of learned mentalities about living in my own hometown and I wanted to experience the world, and finally these guys kind of inspired me to take action and actually go after my chase my dreams and face those fears. And I've learned through that to overcome adversity, and I feel so charged that no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay, and life's going to be okay. There's always ups and downs, and you wouldn't appreciate the highs if you didn't have the lows. So
that's so good. That's so good. Keep going.
So I was working in the wind tunnel. Eventually, I built up the courage and the interest to actually jump out of an airplane myself. I was training skydivers indoors, and well, these guys can do it. I guess I could do it. So built up the courage and talked myself into it. I dipped my toes in the water. I did 4 jumps in 2009, 6 jumps in 2000, I think 11, and then I got licensed in 2012. And then as soon as I got licensed, I was still terrified, but that's when I was like, I want to be a skydiver. This is what I want to do with my life. Like, I want to travel the world, and this is who I am. This is what I'm going to be. And I had a lot of experience at that point already, even a couple of years indoor skydiving, so you get very comfortable maneuvering in the wind. It's basically like breakdancing and gymnastics in a hurricane. That's like the best way I can describe it. And you can do all of those things in the sky too. There's just no walls to hit, and you can hold certain angles that like are like blocking across the sky. That's where flop comes from, like because you're
So
moving,
cool.
like you're making massive movements that you can't do when you're boxed in. You got to be open. You got to be vulnerable. So that's like everything has just fed into everything. Like I'm just trying to build off of everything that I do. And sometimes things don't work out, but I just keep building, and eventually part of that skill actually comes back into play and helps me with whatever it is I'm on to doing next. It's funny, like, so yeah, I was inspired by skydivers. I wanted to travel. I actually was commuting back and forth to work for 4.5 years. I worked at the first wind tunnel facility I ever worked at, Skyventure, New Hampshire. It was in Nashua, so my hometown is in Massachusetts, so 45 minutes away, drive each way for 4 years. Eventually, I said, okay, enough. I wanted to, break free of the bubble, and I started traveling. I started to apply to different wind tunnels all over the country. I had friends who, it's crazy, like Skyventure, New Hampshire, I took Vice President Al Gore and his family, like 3 different occasions.
Oh my gosh.
He came, it was in November, I think it was 2010 or 11. And he came once. He actually didn't fly the first time because on our waiver it said we had the rights to use your image, and we didn't even know who he was at first. I didn't know. I was teaching the class. I didn't even know who he was at first. And then, like, as I'm taking the rest of his family in, they're like, hey, don't mess up. That's Al Gore's family right there. I was like, what?
Oh my
then
God.
eventually they came back 2 times after that, the same month, and he flew both those times.
Wow.
On a sidetrack. But, so working in New Hampshire was a crazy experience, like meeting all these people, and these people were traveling. So I'm like, I got to scratch this itch, or I'm going to always live with regret. And so that's what I did. I went, I started applying to different places, applied to a wind tunnel operation that was supposed to open up in Dubai. I had 2 friends that already moved out there and were working for the Drop Zone, Skydive Dubai. And one of them actually basically hand delivered my resume to the operations manager, was like, hire this kid. And by that time, I had already been applying to other places. I hadn't heard back from them. So I moved on. Like I wanted to leave my hometown. So I picked up everything. I packed it all in my Subaru Legacy, and I drove from Leominster, Massachusetts to Seattle, Washington in 3.5 days. With everything, my whole life packed in my car. I just drove straight through like a zombie, and stopped just sleeping on the side of the road. Saw some amazing things along the way, and I just told myself, like, this was the right decision. Like, as scary as it was, like, I had a girlfriend that we broke up because of this, because I wanted to travel and she wasn't ready. It was just, I couldn't let anything hold me back from like this itch, and then that, moving to Seattle, was like, well, I'm already in Seattle. I got an email like 6 months later after living there, like, hey, we want to do an interview on Skype for the Crown Prince's wind tunnel of Dubai. And I was like, yeah, I think I would. So scheduled the interview with the guy who my friend hand delivered the resume to. So got the job. And then I was like, I never thought I was going to drive across country again, because it was awful, the first experience. Just packed with everything in my Subaru Legacy. I had nowhere to sleep. It was like not comfortable to experience that road trip, right? Which I'm going on this, I leave Friday I'm in a van, but a lot more comfortable being in a van than a Subaru Legacy. So, and I took 3.5 days, I didn't obviously take my time. So fast forward, I end up driving back across country, I did it in 5 days. Driving back from Washington to my hometown, got rid of all my possessions, parked my car in my parents' driveway so it could be sold because I literally had to leave like a week later, and went to Dubai. Because I was like, well, I was already 3,000 miles away from home. Why not be 6,000? Still going to visit for Christmas, just a longer flight. That was my mentality. And everybody was scared because it was the Middle East. They're like, or didn't even know where Dubai was. They're like, is that India? Like, where is that? They have no idea. I didn't even really know. Like, it's hard for me to point out. I could point it out on the map now, but I couldn't before. But it's the Middle East. You're right next to. You're in the middle. Like, you're between like Saudi and Pakistan. But it's like the Switzerland of the Middle East. It's very liberal there. There's hotels. There's bars. There's all of that there. It's crazy. But so I was there for 2.5 years. I went there. I had like 65 skydives in total, and I was like, this is skydiving university for me. And I was determined to get onto a skydiving team. That was my intent. I wanted to be a competitive skydiver. So that's where I went there with that intention. 2 years into living there, I actually was recruited onto, they're still now actually to this day, the world and national champions of their discipline in skydiving. They do 4-way VFS, so like vertical formation skydiving. It's intense. But so they're the best at what they do. I was recruited onto that team, and 4 days before I was leaving to go to training camp. I was actually going to a skydiving boogie, which is like a festival, skydive all day, party at night, and then immediately after that, we were going to start training camp. 4 days away from leaving Dubai after 2 years to go and start that journey, I was a passenger in a car accident, and it was 4 days before I was leaving. So I sold my car. I sold all my possessions. I was sleeping on a foam pad in my apartment because I sold everything. And 4 days before that flight, I was a passenger car accident, broke my neck in 10 places. I was internally decapitated at the C5, C6 level. And I thought, like, my immediate thing before I even, like, after the accident, like, I was conscious, though. I can tell you the whole thing very vividly, but it'd take too long for this thing. But I remember laying there before I was even thinking I might not be able to walk. I was thinking, fuck, I'm not going to be able to go. I guess I'm not leaving on this trip.
Wow.
That was my first thought. And then it was like, fuck, can I move? And I couldn't at first. But within an hour, the ambulance got there.
An hour?
I was able to move after that. We were in the middle of the desert, driving from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, which is about an hour, because this was 4 days before, right? So I used to train a lot of DOD guys and Navy SEALs in the wind tunnel, and they loved me because I used to give them a lot of freedom in there, because they're all big, tough dudes. I'm like, don't fall down and break your neck. That's like always the biggest fear, right? Ironic. So it was, these guys invited myself and a few coworkers out to shoot like all guns and all that, like on their range. It's kind of hush hush. I won't name any names or where we went, but yeah, we were coming back from that. And when the accident happened.
Wow.
And the driver I was in the passenger seat. Front passenger seat was just the two of us. Ironic that on the way there, I was in the other car, and I swapped cars on the way back because he was going to drop me off at mine, and then we get into this accident. And he was driving reckless. It was a single car accident. He was messing around, went to pass our coworkers, and we ran out of road.
Oh
it was an intersection. You couldn't go straight anymore. We were doing 90.
Oh my God.
So we were doing 120 kilometers an hour, and it was left or right turn only. So we went off and landed straight on the roof. I was buried in the sand up to my chest, like upside down in the sand.
Oh my God.
So I was suffocating in the sand. The guys that we passed came to our rescue, literally like pulled me out. So they didn't want to move me, obviously, but luckily, because I have stretch marks on my spinal cord. Like if it shifted just a little bit further, I would have been dead or paralyzed. Like literally from like, I'd be able to blink my eyes.
Oh my gosh.
That was from C1 down to T4.
And so now, like, I want, like, so that happened, right? But quickly, I want to just have like a comparison.
No, sorry, again, there's so many pieces. So
yeah.
like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, like, so I want to give people an idea, like, how healthy are you today, and like, how do you live today?
I'm lucky. Like, I mean, you can see. Well, this is a good one. Like, I can show you. Like, I'm very, very fortunate. Like, I actually got my ratings to become a skydiving instructor. My specialty, I was a pro wind tunnel flyer. I trained skydivers how to perform and maneuver in wind tunnels, and I was also a skydiver. But I didn't take non-skydivers for a ride. Like, I wasn't a tandem instructor. I didn't teach people to become skydivers. I was one myself, but I got those ratings after my injury. Wow. Because I was determined to get back to where I was. Wow. And I didn't want to just be like the same. I wanted to be better. And I was trying to prove that to myself. I was trying to prove to everyone. I literally used that as like the carrot that I like philosophically dangled in front of myself. And I told everyone, like, I was waking up at like 4 a.m. so I could go to the gym to work out like before going to work, because that was part of my PT. I was like alkaline-based diet. I was just like intermittent fasting, like everything, like anything that I could do to help influence my recovery for the better. I was doing it, and I was like running with it.
So
and
this
just
is
constantly researching like everything that I could.
So this is what I think is so interesting. So like you were basically handed cards, right? And you made a choice. You made a choice on how you wanted to move forward, how you wanted to create your life, how you wanted to be. And
this guy driving, like, I wanted to hold anger to him, right? Like, this guy changed the whole I thought this guy stole my dreams from me, and I wanted to blame him. And in the Middle East, I actually had power to influence his punishment with the police. Like, they literally asked me before letting him go. He was handcuffed to his bed when he woke up in the hospital. And I was like, no, let him go. It was an accident. Like, it was an accident. And there's times where I like regretted that, and times where I was like, no, he should, because, I didn't think that he learned or really understood the impact that it had, but ultimately it was an accident. And to hold on to that bitterness, how will that serve me? How is that going to make my life better? Like, how is that going to help me reach my goal? If I'm holding on to that, all it's doing is holding me back. That is the fact. Like, and until you admit that to yourself, which is hard, because it's a scapegoat also, because by holding on to it, you're also robbing yourself of the opportunity to learn and grow from it. And it's usually because someone's too scared to just admit it to themselves, because they have to do the reflection inwardly and deal with the problem.
God, that's so powerful. And I'm so glad that you went there, because that was a really big point that I wanted to hit today with you, because I've had to do some radical forgiveness in my life as well. And I held on to it for a while because I needed to, right? Like, we all have our process, and everyone processes differently. And I know that it was part of my journey and part of my growing. But if someone's listening to this and they're dealing with forgiveness, because that is a huge thing that so many people deal with, I wanted to really touch on a couple things here, but this is one of them. How would you tell people, like you shared a little bit just now, but how would you help people through that process of they're holding on to something because they're afraid that by forgiving them, it makes them, a lot of people think that makes what they did okay?
It's their own courage. It's their own inner strength. You have to use that anger and resentment and flip it. That is the key. That is the most pivotal key that I can elaborate on to people, is take that anger and resentment and bitterness and flip it inwardly and use it as your fire and motivation to be better anyways, despite it. Not prove, you'll get to the point where you're not trying to prove it to anyone. Like I said earlier, I was proving it to myself. I was proving it to anyone. I'm at the point now where I don't need to prove anything. But like you said, it's a process. Like it's you reinforce it by facing it. Like if you have fears and anxieties, the number one thing to do is run straight into that shit. Like, and I learned that honestly through skydiving. I was terrified, but the amazing experiences on the other side once I faced that fear, and it's the same with everything. Like I've used that mentality to help flip all the adversities that I've overcome, and they just keep coming, and I just keep overcoming them. And I'm just now like my skin's so thick just through practice.
Yeah.
And everybody is capable, but you have to start somewhere. You got to do it for no one else other than you. You have to be selfishly aggressive and use that bitterness and that anger to motivate you to be better anyways. And that really, you'll learn to take pride in that inner strength, because that's how you're really going to help other people and that's really how you're going to help yourself, number one. Like, I know you said last time we spoke, it was like, your cup you have to fill your cup before you can fill others. And it's true. And I learned that through physical therapy, through physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial rehabilitation. It literally took back my life. Like, I had to learn how to walk again. Like, I'm okay for a little while I was, and now, like, even now I had to, again, like last year, again, realize my own my own weakness, my own structural integrities. Like, I had to walk away from being a skydiving instructor because physically I can't do it. And I did damage on my body pursuing that career, but further damage than I would. But like, for me, it was worth it because I did it and I proved it to myself. And now it's like, I know I'm capable of whatever I put my mind to.
Yeah.
And I want to help people do that for themselves and whatever it is that they do, because I'm fucking no one. Like, I come from very humble beginnings. Like, I was a juvenile delinquent. I didn't graduate high school. I was super smart. It was out of being stubborn, thick-headed, thinking I knew it all. Like, and there's a lot of different variables for that. There's no excuses. Like, but the only excuses are the ones we make ourselves. As soon as we learn to take accountability, like, for ourselves, that's when we can actually start taking control of our lives.
God, that's so good. And I think those pieces, right? And I think something I loved when we spoke before was when you said, like, it doesn't matter what happened, right? Like, this is what I've created now. And those contextual pieces are really important for people who are looking at you to stop making excuses about themselves. And that's what I love, is when we take ourselves off a pedestal. We realize and show everyone we are not unicorns. We are human beings that have flaws and imperfections and have every excuse in the world, right? If we wanted to, we have every excuse in the world not to pursue what we're doing, but we decided that we are living no excuse lives. And that's what we're doing, is we're living no excuse lives. We are human, we are flawed, and we are fearful, and we are doing it anyway. And I love, love, love that you said that, because know that that part of your story is not who you are, but it also helps give context to help other people say, if he can do it, I can do it too. And I think that that is what stories do, and what our stories do is give people permission. And so something I wanted to touch on as well is that you said, like, several times, right, that, like, you went to do skydiving and you were super scared. Like, you were so afraid, but you did it anyway. And I want you to, how did you get to that place of, yes, I'm scared, but I'm doing it anyway?
I think perspective. It was realizing, like, we're all human, right? Not putting anyone, like, I don't put myself or anyone on a pedestal. Like, we're all human beings. Like, because of skydiving, because of like Dubai, like I traveled the world, and what I learned is like no matter where you go, people are the same. Like same but different. Like you said, we're all flawed, we're all human. We all have the same range of emotions, men and women. Like we all have emotions. We're all very emotional creatures. We're very communal creatures. Some people enjoy their isolation more than others. Like there's positives and negatives to everything, right? But I think just having that understanding that knowing on the other side of that fear is the exact things that you desire. Like that's going to give you the feelings that you desire so much. That's like human beings have to be vulnerable to be happy, in my opinion.
Totally.
What do I know? I have no training. I went, I did Psych 101 and 102 for an associate's degree that I didn't finish. But like, we're all human beings. We all have these emotions, right? Like, it's just a matter of facing them, owning them, and not letting them own you. Like, I speak bluntly, not by any means am I saying it easy, that it's easy.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is it's a choice, and you gotta wake up. Like for me, it was car accident. Like that shook me, and I woke up. I said, okay, time to get serious. But whatever it is that shakes you, rocks you, or it just motivates you to do it, just finally just self-discipline. Like it's self-accountability, and those things can be hurtful when we look inward and we feel guilty that we're not taking action.
Yeah.
And it's like we know the answers when we're just honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
So the realer you can get with yourself, and just the more action you take, the more it's perpetual. The more it's going to solidify and just become, the blood that runs in your veins. Like, and you'll be a better person. You'll be able to provide for others and be strength for others, and instead of being being someone that's not up enriching.
Yeah.
Right. Like everyone that I encounter within my life, I want to enrich their life. Like no matter who it is, whether it's like barista that pours my coffee, I would, be chatty with them just so they smile and enjoy their day.
Totally.
Like whatever it is, like any human interaction, if you can enhance that person's life, like why not?
Totally.
It makes them feel good. It makes you feel good. Like why would you not do that? And yeah, everybody has bad days. We all have bad days. But we can sit there and ponder about the excuses why you're justified to feel that way, or you can decide that you're going to be happy anyway despite that, and work on yourself to become the person capable of having the strength to continue on.
I love it. And so it's like you said, it's choice, right? It is every day we wake up and we get to choose how we want to feel, because our circumstance doesn't create our experience, right? Like that, our experience is separate from our circumstance. It's how we choose to look at things. And so there's so many, like, I love your mindset and everything you say and how you are and how you show up in the world, Matt. I think it's so inspiring. And so what are you up to now? And so I want people to know what you're up to now, what you're doing, how they can connect with you, how they can find you, how they can support you.
So right now I am in San Diego, and I leave in 4 days, and I begin the first leg of what we're deeming as the Flock Nation Tour. And I'm going from state to state, building community, hosting meetup events. And our meetup group is solely based on active living. So anything active lifestyle, like we did the wind tunnel 1 week, we can go hiking. There's going to just be, I just want to meet up with people and share time and positive energy together, and take that time for ourselves to enjoy this earth that we have. And any ideas along the way, I'm open. We have dates set. Where can we find it? I'm so new at this. I'm so bad.
No, it's good. So like, how can...
I was just skydiving bum, and now we're doing so many things. But
it's so cool. It's so cool. So how can they connect with you, and so like they can be up to date on when you do set dates?
So check out @FlockGoods on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Our The Flock Life is our meetup group.
Cool.
If you're a member of Meetup. So yeah, check us out on any of those places. Flockgoods.com is our store. So yeah, we're growing, we're learning, and we're building. And I teach the 5 fingers to get flocked. So
oh yeah, good. So this is what I want you to leave people with.
If in life we've all been fucked, so flip that shit and get flocked. That's what I'm trying to inspire people to do. Like, and it's silly and it's like aggressive even, right? But that's the point. Like, you've got to get aggressive for yourself, right? It's because if you don't for yourself in a healthy manner, you portray that onto other people. It's gonna come out. So allow it to come out in a healthy manner, and do it and internalize it so you can use it as your fire. And then that's your fuel that you can overcome any adversity that life throws at you, because it's gonna throw plenty. So be ready.
I love that. I love that. Bob and weave. So that's perfect. And that's exactly how I want to end. So that is perfect. So Matt, like, please follow him, show him some love, go to his meetup events, spread the word, be ready, state to state. His tour is happening, right? And like, flock, bring the flock, right? And so thank you, Matt, so much for coming on. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Everyone, thank you so much for listening.
I'm
so grateful. Yeah. And I will talk to you all next week. Hey, Worthiness Warriors, real quick before you go, I wanted to let you know that my Worthiness Warrior Club is now open. It's my monthly, affordable, accessible, low-cost coaching that is a private group where we get special podcasts, special interviews, live coaching, hot seat coaching, daily support, journal prompts, and everything you need to keep that momentum going and start your journey. So this is perfect for the person who is ready to dip their toes into coaching, but wants a taste before they jump in fully. I'm so excited to bring this to you. There's nothing like this out there. It's $88 a month through the end of March, and I cannot wait to meet you there. If you're ready to join, check out @JillyJohnstonCoaching, my Instagram. The link is in the bio, and I'll meet you in the group. Thanks so much for listening. If this podcast inspired, moved, or resonated with you, please share it with those who could use it. If you're interested in learning more about me or the programs that I offer, check out JillyJohnston.com. Sign up for my newsletter and receive a free workbook on the worthiness mindset. Remember, make it a great day or not, but that choice is yours.